On the night of June 18th, 1940, in the quaint town of Saumur, fresh-faced cadets clutched their rifles, the gravity of what lay ahead settling upon them. The distant growl of the Wehrmacht's 1st Cavalry Division tanks shattered the silence. Their aim, to cross the vital bridges of Saumur and penetrate deeper into France. The French Marshal, Philippe Pétain, had just ordered France to lay down its arms. The mayor of Saumur wasn't even sure he wanted the town to be defended. Yet the students of the École de Cavalerie declared themselves the last line of defense. The coming dawn promised a baptism by fire, pitting a mere school against the juggernaut of the Nazi war machine. Rivers of resistance. In May 1940, following a period of deceptive tranquility known as the Phony War, Germany shifted gears and initiated a powerful offensive against Western Europe, including France. The assault was rapid and ruthless, characterized by Germany's infamous Blitzkrieg lightning war strategy, and the forces achieved swift success in the regions of the Somme and Aisne. Before long, the German forces were advancing toward the Seine River, posing a direct threat to the heart of France, Paris. By May 20th, it was painfully evident they were losing their grip on the northern part of the country. In a desperate bid to hold back the German advance in any possible way, the newly appointed commander-in-chief of the French forces, General Wehrmacht, ordered the defense of all rivers that might serve as potential obstacles. The Loire River was one of these natural barriers. Saumur, a town in the banks of the Loire, was a crucial location as it housed 3 bridges across the river. If the Germans could secure the river crossings, especially those at Saumur, they would have a clear route to the remaining unoccupied territories of southern France. Young cadets. In the early days of June 1940, the Saumur Cavalry School, a veritable institution dedicated to nurturing the future of France's military leadership, found itself at the heart of the nation's defense. Assembled along the Loire River, the school's officer cadets, most on the cusp of their teenage years, were entrusted with the mammoth task of holding a sprawling front of 25 miles. However, on the 15th, the school's leader, Colonel Charles Michon, received orders to retreat. The orders were explicit. For Michon, following them would rip open a 25-mile wound in the defenses along the Loire. He resolved to send back only those unfit for combat, allowing the fittest officers and cadets to stay with him and stand their ground. Colonel Michon consulted his officers, presenting them with a stark choice: retreat or fight. For the honor of the school, all chose to stay and fight the Germans on the Loire. Readying the ranks. Young, inexperienced, and woefully underprepared, the Saumur cadets, with mere months of basic training under their belts, were tasked with the colossal duty of standing against the seasoned German forces in the Loire River. Yet, they were not entirely alone. The local population lent their support, fueled by a shared determination to resist the invaders and a few regular army units. Together, they bolstered their defenses around the bridges spanning the Loire River, setting up anti-tank and machine gun posts. The enemy they were preparing to face was formidable. The German troops approaching Saumur belonged to General Lieutenant Kurt Feld's 1st Cavalry Division. The impending clash held a cruel irony, as it was a battle between seasoned graduates of the German Cavalry School and the untested cadets of the French Cavalry School. After marching at a startling rate of up to 60 miles per day, the Germans, led by General Kurt Feld, had amassed a force of 10,000 men. They were equipped with motorized armored cars, artillery, and a full array of standard divisional equipment. In stark contrast, the French could only muster 2,500 men, 550 cavalry officer cadets, 240 transport officer cadets, 300 infantrymen and machine gunners. Their arsenal was woefully sparse, comprising 5 75mm field guns, 13 anti-tank guns, and a smattering of 60mm and 81mm mortars. The cavalry school cadets were equipped with only a single rifle per man, and some training-purpose Saint-Étienne 1915 machine guns. As the German forces drew nearer, the defenders took up their positions with determination. The prestige and honor of the Saumur School were on the line, and these young cadets were willing to defend it until the end. Break of dawn. In the early hours of June 19th, the formidable German 1st Cavalry Division, fresh from successful campaigns in Poland and Belgium, descended upon Saumur. The thunderous roar of German Stuka dive bombers echoed in the sky, marking the start of the battle. Outnumbering the French 10-1 and armed with superior weaponry, General Felt anticipated meager resistance. However, the cadets of Saumur, as he would come to call them in his logs, would prove committed to defying the odds. Shortly after midnight, the first intense confrontations between the defending French cadets and the attacking German forces ignited around Saumur's northern bridge, Port Napoleon. The cadets mounted a spirited defense, destroying 7 enemy tanks before the strategic necessity forced them to detonate the bridge, halting the German onslaught. Less than 2 hours later, the French demolished the Montsereau Bridge, followed by a railway bridge. While drastic, these measures were taken to thwart the relentless German advance. Throughout the tumultuous day, German artillery relentlessly shelled French positions, where, despite their outmatched mortars, every French unit held its ground. As night fell on June 19, 1940, every attempt made by the enemy to cross the Loire had been successfully repelled. The fierce resistance displayed by the young cadets sent a clear message: Saumur would not succumb without a fight. Battle of High Noon. Under cover of darkness, French reinforcements, including 2 companies of infantry officer cadets from Saint-Maxent, arrived shortly after midnight on June 20th. These soldiers were positioned west of the island of Gênes, a crucial point on the French defense line. As the morning light broke, the German forces made their move. Landing on the island, they met the French in a grueling display of hand-to-hand combat, where the defenders put up a formidable fight, locking the enemy in a stalemate that lasted several hours. Despite the gallant efforts of the French, the Germans managed to secure the island, further extending their grip over the northern banks of the Loire. Throughout the day, German artillery continued to fire relentlessly at the French positions, particularly Saumur and Gênes. Amid this escalating conflict, additional reinforcements arrived for the French. One group from this unit, part of a detachment of Poitiers School for Applied Artillery, was assigned to defend the Port Brûlé Bridge, one of the last crossing points. The men successfully maintained control of the bridge until the evening. Twilight's toll. However, the relentless German offensive ultimately overwhelmed the French. After being the target of endless attacks for over a day, Gênes was conceded to the Germans on the night of January 20th. With the towns to the west and east now under enemy control and rumors of an armistice swirling around, Colonel Michon faced a difficult decision. Believing that Saumur could no longer be held under the relentless German pressure, he ordered his cadets to retreat to the south. As such, the exhausted young defenders made their way to the rendezvous point. On the morning of June 22nd, Saumur, the bastion of the French resistance, finally fell to the German forces. Their victory, however, was a costly one. In the immediate aftermath of the battle, 250 soldiers were either wounded or lost, and 218 officers and cadets were taken prisoner. The young cadets, who had fought valiantly against a superior enemy, left an indelible impression on their captors. In an extraordinary show of respect, the Germans released these prisoners in the following weeks, allowing them passage into the southern zone. Some were even given a rare honor for captured combatants, a salute from the German soldiers as they crossed the demarcation line. The spark ignites. The cadets of Saumur, as German General Felt initially dubbed them, failed at preventing the enemy from crossing the Loire. But their effort was far from futile. They had inflicted notable damage on the German forces and ignited a spirit of resistance among the French population. Charles de Gaulle highlighted this defiance in his June 18th appeal, where he referred to the men's stance as the inaugural act of what later became the French resistance. Comprised of men and women from all walks of life, including students, professionals, factory workers, and farmers, the French resistance played a critical role in the broader Allied effort to defeat Nazi Germany. Throughout the war, the town of Saumur itself also became a hub of resistance. When the Germans failed to apprehend the persistent troublemakers, they imposed a fine of 500,000 francs on the area. Under German supervision, the bridges were rebuilt, only to be destroyed again by Allied bombers in 1944 as part of Operation Overlord's strategy to isolate the Normandy battlefields by severing all routes across the Loire River. The town remained under German control until it was finally liberated on August 30th by the U.S. Third Army. In a poetic turn of events, the liberating force was commanded by Lieutenant General George S. Patton, an alumnus of the Saumur Cavalry School.